Oh, hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
Oh, hi, howdy.
How's everybody doing? So this is not going to be a long one because we are super busy prepping for...
knee deep in Notacon for next week.
Yeah, we are, Ian and I got here early today to set up the BVZ set. That's the Boomer versus
Not a
Zoomer
prep.
game show.
Yeah.
We've been building, and then we tested it. I think we're done testing it. Now I got to pack it.
Well, you actually have to press some of the score buttons and make sure they actually work. You know, like if... Oh, did you do that already?
No, oh yeah, we can't forget the Elgato Stream Deck here either.
Yeah, of course. Not a sponsor, but also a sponsor.
No, but we got to...
Press the score, yeah.
Yeah.
Did that add it? Yeah. I added a little... It adds up individually, number by number, instead of jumping, and it also does a little bump. And if you negative... Nobody knows what we're talking about, so just trust us. Come to Notacon, and you'll see what happens.
That's right. Come to Notacon.
If you press the negative, it'll turn red. Jay, like go down.
Yeah.
You can still buy tickets.
Not working.
The conference is going to run next Friday and
Takes a second
Saturday.
Well, Thursday
there's a VIP
night,
Thursday. There's a meet and greet Thursday night, and then the conference will run Friday and Saturday.
yeah, at 9 p.m., everybody that is a ticket holder can join basically the VIP.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to be socializing and chilling. Go to notaconcon.com. Go to theskepticsguide.org to get the information that you need.
These conferences are a ton of fun, man, especially like the week of.
It's a lot. And the week
of work.
of.
Yeah.
How many attendees? It's like 200-ish,
Yeah.
Something like that, somewhere in there.
Yeah, depending. There's always some quote unquote at the door.
Yeah, there's still people buying.
People just show up.
I'm like, what?
Which you can do, by the way. You can just show up and buy a ticket there. But yeah, the week of, people decide, because especially if you're local, you don't really have to like book plane travel or stuff. A lot of people decide, the week of if they're going.
Us.
Oh, Ben is not coming, and that's bullshit.
Do skeptics think everyone from outside the U.S. will be allowed in the country? Just don't pack your phone in your checked.
I haven't heard. I've been following this pretty closely. I haven't heard of any cases,
just in case,
of somebody being blocked if there wasn't something going on, right? So
yeah, there has to be a turmoil or some type of illegality.
It's mainly they're mainly focusing on getting people out of the country who are not citizens, even if you're here legally, they're just trying to get the numbers up as much as possible. But I think if you're a tourist coming to the U.S., they're not going to keep you out.
Tourism has dropped, I think, a lot. It's like insane.
5%. It's actually not that. If you look at the actual numbers, it's only like about 5% or so.
Oh, so
but I think it's too soon because most people probably already had their plans. If you're doing international travel, that's not a last minute thing usually.
Yeah, that's.
But I bet you, next year, over the next year, that's when we're going to really see the drop. But we'll see. So I wouldn't not come because you think you're not going to get into the country. If you have a passport and you have, you want to come here as a tourist, that's not going to be a problem.
The volume has gone down, but we still get thousands of people probably a day coming into the U.S.
But just bring a burner, just in case. Just in case.
And Olivia, you also could bribe people with chocolate. You know?
That will get you in. I hear.
I hear that everybody likes chocolate.
Everyone likes the chocolate. I read that not a coin. No, there is a not a coin. Do you want to show the not a coin?
Do I have a picture of it?
Do you have them physically?
I don't. I didn't bring one.
Oh, you should.
What's the not a coin?
Well, it's not really a not a coin.
We don't have a not a coin.
Science or fiction.
We have a science or fiction coin, which I
didn't
think
hear about the not a
is
coin.
freaking cool as hell.
We'll
It's
do a not a
really
coin
awesome. I don't know if any of you guys have experienced this, but you conceptualize a piece of swag, particularly something like a coin, because it's got heft to it. It's just a really cool thing to hold. So, we went back and forth. We were talking about designs for, like a month. We're trying to figure out what to do. So we decided to just do this coin pretty plain. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't have a lot of bling on it. It's just very, very much a science or fiction coin. I got them and I'm blown away about how cool they are. So it's what I like about our swag is I own and use all of it. Oh yeah. So when we print these rockets, for those of you that don't do anything with 3D printing, so you have to have what they call scaffolding, right? So this is the base plate that goes on. This adheres to the plate of the print deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you could feel like the texture on the bottom because it's a texturized deck, and that gives a print structure at the beginning. But you see like these little spurs here, and then like the rocket engine has like this bottom part to it that isn't actually a part of the rocket. That's all to build the lattice work so they can actually build up from there.
This is a nice heft to it.
Yeah, we made them heavier.
Yeah, it's not 100% fill. It's 60. We might make
60.
100% and then do like a paint job on them or something. Make them real fancy.
Well, I think we're going to try to bring a couple of premium ones that are painted. And
yeah, so we're getting them painted. But most of them will be just like this. Will be plain. You could paint it yourself.
So then you just rip this stuff off, right? So you can see the lattice work on there to hold up the rocket, and then this guy comes off. Boom. It's remarkable how easy the things that need to come off, they come off pretty easy.
Yeah.
So in other 3D print jobs, you could see an amazing amount of lattice work. Like if they're printing something that, if you tried to print this rocket this way instead of this way, right? There would have to be a whole lattice work underneath it, like a whole series of lattices to hold it up so you can actually print the thing. So you got to be really smart about the orientation of things that you're printing. It's so freaking cool. 3D printing. I mean, this is consumer level 3D printing. This thing is really sweet. But there's 3D printing out there. They're printing like legitimate, like you could prototype off a 3D printer. You could print metal. There's all sorts of different things. I used to work for a company called Thule that made cargo carriers for, you could put your bike on the car, you could put luggage, blah, 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 all these different things. And they used 3D printing back then, they're going back quite a ways, but they were using 3D printing to test new products before they finalized the engineered design. It's really cool. I think 3D printing is going to be like one of those things. Like you go to Mars and they ship raw material. I don't know if they'd be able to manufacture any raw material on the planet. Who the hell knows?
Eventually.
But plastic is a complicated thing. So they will send them raw material that will be usable by a 3D printer. So like this happens in a space station all the time. They need a tool. They print it.
They print it, yeah.
Now the kind of 3D printer that they're using is one. I forget the name of it. Ian, when they print in the powder.
Oh yeah, that's powder printing. No, let me.
So imagine if you had like a sheet pan that was like 2 inches deep, right? And there's this gray powder in there. And what they do is the 3D printer actually like shoots lasers, I think, to melt the substrate so it becomes hard and solid.
I think it's SLS.
It's SLS?
I think that's what it is. Selective laser sintering.
Yep, that's it. That's it. And then you could pull out a usable wrench. Like with the wheel, turning it to size and everything. It's freaking amazing.
It's like sintering, I think.
It is. The last S is
using
sintering.
metal. Yeah, it's
Beth is damn determined to find out how many people. We're going to have at least 200 people. It's possible that we'll
have more if you bring your friends and family.
What's happening?
Your neighbor.
Bring your mom.
Your neighbor.
So
down the hall.
God, the Jerky Boys are still funny. Unreal.
All right.
They swoop down at me. So there'll be at least 200 people there. We didn't really have that many guests. I invited people to come as guests, but they didn't get a lot of that. So this is basically all sold tickets, which is cool. This is the SGU's core people, right? Because you got roughly the same numbers as last year. It's a really good size. It's large enough to make it exciting and fun to be around that many people, and it's not over what, like, TAM at its biggest had 1,600 people attend. When you're at an event with 1,600 people,
it's a lot.
A good 2/3 of the audience is so far away from the stage that they have to put screens up so you could see what's happening on the stage. It's not an intimate event. It was in a lot of ways, but as far as like sitting in the audience all day and everything, it's not that much intimacy. We're going to be intimate. There will be lots of Ian plans on hugging everyone to thank you.
Nope, sure don't.
Ian also said he's going to throw watermelon at people.
Yeah. I think the
who was that comedian who would
conference
smash
said no.
watermelons?
Gallagher.
Yeah,
we're doing a Gallagher. I'm Gallagher 3.
Yeah.
Not Gallagher 2, TOO.
So guys, I'm really excited. I really am. I put so much time and energy into this, and it's awesome to see all the pieces start to come together. All this stuff is now being delivered to me that I've been ordering. Not just like doodads, like tape and things like that, but like the new swag items and all that. It's always cool to get in the weeds with all that. And Ian and I have been working on making like
watermelon cannon.
Oh my God, that would be so dangerous. That would kill people. You could kill someone with a watermelon.
I'll take selfies for everyone, which is
if you accelerate something with fast enough, you can kill people with most anything.
Even particles, know.
Little particle through your brain. Wasn't there that guy that stuck his head in the particle accelerator and he saw a flash of light or something? Is that a myth?
Did you see that thing, guys? God, you must have, Steve. You must have talked about this.
Thing?
Where they take one of those laser levelers and they look into the laser light, and I don't know if this is all bullshit, but I've seen lots of different videos of people like looking in there and the laser. So when you
what do you mean by looking in?
They look at the fucking laser light. They look into the laser light.
So it's hitting their retina.
Yes,
that's not a good idea.
I know. So
don't do that,
what's happening is, laser light is very strange to look at up close because it's moving, right? It's not just like a flashlight solid beam. Like it's almost like there's tons of points of light, being turned on and off inside of that laser beam. And I know that there is a reason behind it, by the way that lasers work or whatever. So when you look into it, you'll see, the movement and stuff, right? These people are saying like, we're looking at an alien. We're looking at a computer language that built the universe. A computer language that built the. We're looking at aliens trying to communicate with us. We're looking at design schematics. It's like, are you kidding me?
But where's the laser light coming from?
Like the laser leveler. The laser leveler. Like you buy a laser leveler.
Why do they think aliens are communicating to us through a laser?
Well, it's a hole through the universe or some shit like that, Steve. It's like we're looking into another dimension. If I hear that one more time, I'm going to rip my face off.
I think they literally want people to go blind. Like they just want people to stare into it.
So
it's
stupid.
Just like that kind of level of depravity. Can we say what podcast you're going to be on, Steve? Or is that a secret?
Yeah.
No, definitely tell
Okay.
Yeah. Last night I did a 2-hour interview with the Proof podcast. Yeah, with Simon Hill. A lot of fun. Good conversation. So I don't know when that's going to go up, but he'll let me know when that goes live, and we'll put the links on all the social medias. But
it's like a science-based conversation about health and longevity.
Yeah.
Did you guys do all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we did. It was mainly about just skepticism itself, misinformation, and we'll probably. He invited me to come back to do like specific topics where this was just sort of a far-ranging. We did hit a lot of different things, but more about. Critical thinking, scientific literacy, misinformation, disinformation, conspiracy theories, all that kind of stuff, and how you confront it, and
It's kind of good to have like an area where it's like so much woo, and this guy kind of science basing into it,
Yeah, this is kind of a foundational, more of an interview.
Sure, yeah, but still.
And then we could hit specific topics in the future.
We as science communicators and skeptics, like we've it's funny how like in the beginning when you first get into it, like there is a lot of discussion about being a skeptic, and then you start to get more into the weeds and you get into more detailed stuff, and talking to the next generation of podcasters coming up, that's the interviews that you get. Like they want to talk about the backbone of critical thinking and not getting into like the things that we get to discuss.
Well, I think like what we do, like the scientific skepticism, I would like to see that become science communication and science education. It should be the same thing.
Yeah.
Not two separate things. And we talked about that a little bit too. The fact that, if you're teaching science in science class, K through 12 or even, college level, you should be teaching pseudoscience at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? You're teaching them how to distinguish science from pseudoscience. You can't do that without teaching them
about
pseudoscience, like how it works.
I mean, one of the best things when we were learning all this stuff, and one of the early things, we like vaccines and, and creationism, these were like really the big hot topics and stuff. Yeah. Especially, I think creationism was like one of the ones that Steve, you really...
it was an early one for me, early sort of skeptical topic.
But just really learning about one heavy hitter topic that a skeptic would face, right? It encapsulates everything to be a skeptic. You touch almost every important thing about being a skeptic by doing that deep dive.
Ones, yeah.
So I highly recommend.
We've had this conversation too. Like, pick something.
Yeah, become an expert on one thing.
It doesn't matter what it's something you're interested in, something that's close to any other area of expertise that you have, and become the expert on that one very narrow thing. Whatever, like homeopathy is a good one. Like, if you knew inside and out, all the reasons why homeopathy is bullshit, pretty much all of the skeptical principles are encapsulated in that one topic.
Yeah.
Same thing like creationism or flat eartherism or whatever gets you interested, whatever is is exciting for you.
So my son was just asking me, like we're constantly, he's really intelligent and he's really curious and he's asking me lots of questions about nonsense because he's starting to hear it from his classmates, right? He's 12 years old and they're talking about Bigfoot and all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God. So he's asking me, is this real? Today he asked me, do you think AI will take over? I'm like, Dylan, I'm dropping you off at the bus stop here. I'm not going to have enough time to really get into it, but I was telling him the difference between narrow and general AI, right? So I give him the quick once over and he goes, so the general AI is it's going to be able to think like a human. I'm like, I don't think it's going to really think like a human. It's going to be able to think at the level of a human, right? That in the early versions of it, and then it'll surpass human thinking. And he goes, why the hell would we do that? And I'm like, that's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
Because he's like, what if it gets out? I thought that was a cool thing that he thought of too. Like, yeah, you're right. I mean, maybe it could make a copy of its programming somewhere else, but I said, it might need
an interesting concept.
It might need special hardware to function. You can't probably put it on somebody's laptop. Like it might need literally a mainframe.
But with distributed computing, it could theoretically exist in a distributed fashion across the internet.
But then I told him the thing that Steve told me that I thought was fascinating was that we might not have to build it. We might, narrow AI, a series of narrow AI that are nested with each other and can communicate with each other might be able to essentially simulate general AI without it being anywhere near conscious or any of that nonsense.
But here's the thing, which is I think the direction that we're headed in. But that's the good news. But the bad news is I think all the risks of a general AI could be there with the narrow AI.
Yeah, maybe. That's the thing.
So if you have, it doesn't really matter. And that's almost scarier. Like the idea that, you have narrow AIs that are not self-aware, not conscious in any way. But they are artificial intelligence, and they are simulating, as you say.
Yeah, so it might just get there anyway.
Yeah, like the idea that they would do things because that's their program. You can't even reason with it because it doesn't have. There's nothing there to reason with. It doesn't have any motivation. It's just following its programming.
It's the Terminator.
The Terminator, it has self-awareness.
You couldn't reason with the Terminator.
You couldn't reason. It's true. The Terminator, I kind of perceived it as kind of like halfway between. It was a general intelligence.
Kyle Reese said to Sarah Connor,
but it was,
you can't reason with it.
Yeah. No, I know that. And it was pretty clear.
Excuse me, guys.
The way it was, the way they portrayed it, it's more algorithmic in its programming, not
But you can't when
open-ended.
it's got the evil side of the chip in its head, like how they flip the chip, whatever. But when it's that version,
somebody had this thing switched to even.
But when it's there, you can't be like, whoa, hold on, slow down.
Let's talk about this.
No, it's like it'll go through anybody.
Right, but and I remember we were talking the recent news item about the AI. They said, okay, we're gonna, try to keep an AI from hallucinating, right, by having another AI keep an eye on it and monitor it, right? We're going to monitor its process in order to
understand how it functions.
Understand to keep it from basically lying. And what happened was the AI just got better at hiding its lying.
Yeah, I mean, the way that they're programmed, it's trying to find the optimal path, and optimal meaning a couple of things.
Right.
One, efficiency, right? Because they know how much energy, running artificial intelligence on a mainframe is. It's a massive amount of energy. I mean, it's really like, I read an article, I forget most of the details, but it was basically saying like, don't be so effusive when you're talking to AI. Try to think about it beforehand, because there is a legitimate energy use and heat being added to the atmosphere every time you ask it a question, and it goes through that process. It's not like this tiny little program somewhere that's giving you. It's like you're talking to a monolith of software and hardware to get the answer back. So it's pretty significant. So there's another thing I wanted to tell you. So my son was also asking me about placebo. He heard about placebo, and he's like, "Well, what do you think, Dad? I mean, what about placebo?" Because I was talking to him about drug companies. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he's like, well, isn't it powerful? And I'm like, no. So I give him, I define placebo for him, and I tell him how it's used. And of course, you have to talk about the scientific method when you talk about placebo, because they're intertwined with each other. I said, no doctor gives a person a placebo as a medication of any kind. Like, this doesn't happen. Like, placebo exists in research only. That's its one and only function, is to be, the null, test inside of whatever study that they're doing. And then we get into the scientific method, because I've been trying to really get him to understand that. And this is pretty cool, because he was like saying to me, but doesn't the scientific method like slow down? Like, there's lots of things going on. It's so complicated. Like, isn't there a faster way? And I'm like, well, no, there really isn't a better way that we found. And then I had to tell him thing that we were recently discussing, which is the scientific method is there because of faulty human thinking and perception. It exists to be the balance, to null out everything that's bad about human thinking. And he was blown away to hear that, because you just think the scientific method is like, it's a nice rule of thumb thing to follow to help you get to the end. No. It's 100% there to undo all of the crazy that you have to deal with the human mind, which is motivated reasoning, like all, just name
biased perception.
There's a million things. Bias. And that was a good realization for him. If you have kids in your life, I highly recommend that you get into that conversation, because it really is a good illustration of how faulty thinking and faulty the human brain is, and we have to counter our inefficiencies and inadequacies in the way that we think with the scientific method to get legitimate information. It's just such a cool way to come at the scientific method.
Now, speaking of placebos.
Yes, placebo.
You heard about RFK Jr.'s plan to require a placebo arm in any future...
he wants people to get a placebo vaccine?
For vaccines, for a future vaccine.
What is it? But how does it play out in reality? Like, 1 out of every 3 people gets the fake one?
So, whatever. You could have different ratios of treatment to placebo arm. Sometimes we do a 2-to-1 ratio, or a 1-to-1. It depends on how you're statistically designing the study. But here's the skinny on that. So first of all, and this is something that RFK and the anti-vaxxers are persistently wrong about, all approved vaccines do go through placebo-controlled trials. That's already standard. Right? You can't get approved without at some point having been subjected to a placebo-controlled study, just for safety and efficacy.
Right.
But once a vaccine is established as safe and effective, and it becomes the standard of care, it's now unethical to withhold that vaccine from a study subject, right? So But then you might be thinking, well, then if it's already proven to be safe and effective, why would we need to study it further? Well, there are contexts in which we do need to study it further. And one of those is when we're updating a vaccine. This is really what his new pronouncement, his plan is applying to. So like every year we come up with a new version of the flu vaccine to target the strains that we predict will be coming around that season, right? But because the flu vaccine has been around for decades, the same basic technology, it's the same vaccine, the same constituent, same process for making it. It's just new strains. We don't do placebo-controlled trials on every new version of the flu vaccine because it makes no sense. It's the same vaccine, it's just targeting different strains. That's what he wants to do, require placebo-controlled trials for, updating already approved vaccines. That could make it impossible to get the vaccine out in time for that season's flu.
Of course.
Right? So then that's a deal killer. And of course, this is something we've been writing about on science-based medicine since, for the last couple of years. Like, how much of a threat does RFK Jr. actually pose to vaccinations in the U.S.? And this is one of the ways that we predicted he would use in order to hamper the getting vaccines out to people. Is you make these unscientific, like superficially it sounds reasonable. We're going to do placebo-controlled trials. Like most people are like, all right, sounds fine to me. But unless you know the details, you don't realize like, no, this is unnecessary, and this is just going to cause pure harm and delay. This is just going to mean that we don't have these vaccines available in time for flu season. So just one of the many ways he's already proposing, which of course he is, because he's a completely crank pseudoscientist, to hamper not just vaccines, but just health in general, at the federal level. So
it is so hard to not get emotional, to not let my anger like just ultra spike when I hear shit like this, because, I'm hearing your words and the subtext is kids and people are going to die.
Yeah.
Children.
Oh, 100%.
Like little kids, little beautiful kids, 3, 4, 5-year-old kids are freaking going to die. And there's a population out there that is looking at this guy like he knows what the hell he's talking about. And it is one of the biggest shams. I mean, I don't know. Like
he did do to the U.S. what he did to Malaysia. Remember that whole measles outbreak thing where he had a body count? I mean, he was responsible for people dying because of his anti-vaccine rhetoric in Malaysia. And I don't know. I wouldn't say like he doesn't care, because who knows what he feels or doesn't feel. But he's certainly acting recklessly.
But Steve, if you do what he did in Malaysia, and he had to know the result of what he did, and you continue to push what you push, that's evil.
It's hubris, is what it is. It's lack of humility. It's the thing that we talk about all the time, and that's what his major malfunction is. That he thinks he knows better than the scientific community. That's it. And I think he also has. I mean, I don't know if he actually literally damaged his brain, with his prior drug use and worms and whatever, all that stuff. I mean, his thinking is not logical. He does not follow a scientific or logical process. He is a conspiracy theorist and he is a crank, But the problem is when you combine that, and he says things that are so stupid and wrong. It's like he said 60% of people in China have diabetes or some ridiculous number like that. He said, he just said he throws out these statistics that are off by an order of magnitude.
Well, that is rampant in this entire administration.
I know, but I mean, he is supposed to be an expert running a science-based, health institution, department, and he is throwing out easily verifiable statistics.
And check this out, and this is the part that I just find ultra mind-blowing. There will be people that voted a particular way and who think that RFK knows what he's doing. They'll follow his advice, and they will lose a family member directly for what he did, and they won't admit it to themselves.
Yeah.
They won't go, holy shit.
Some will, and have a revelation. The death of a loved one is an eye-opener. But many will rationalize it or or whatever. They'll
What a time to be a
resolve their
skeptic,
cognitive
though.
dissonance
God
in another
damn.
way. I mean, it's already happening. Like, there's already kids hospitalized for vitamin A toxicity because they were listening to RFK and they think vitamin A is going to cure their measles, rather than getting the measles vaccine. And we talked about it on the show, whatever it was, a month ago or so, why that is not true. The data on vitamin A shows it's only helpful in parts of the world with rampant vitamin A deficiency, which measles can exacerbate. But in developed nations, the evidence shows it's of no value. Vitamin A does not help measles if you live in a developed nation that doesn't have vitamin A deficiency as an underlying problem. And certainly in vitamin A, people are unaware of the fact that vitamin A probably is the most toxic vitamin, of all the vitamins.
Yeah.
If you overdose on it, that could cause serious permanent damage. So, he doesn't know how to think like a skeptic. He doesn't know how to think like a scientist. He doesn't know how to think like a clinician, right? Does not think in terms of risk versus benefit.
And this isn't someone that's like in this position, and he's got hopefully other professionals around him that actually know what's going on. It's not like he's slowly learning and he's going to kind of come around.
He's gutting his department.
Yeah, he's gutting it. He's using the same methodology that.
Get rid of anybody who knows what they're talking about who can call me on my bullshit. That's step one.
God damn.
Right?
Did you hear what happened at Newark?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Newark apparently is, and this is probably rampant around the country, the United States, is using software that is so old and the machines are so old that they use floppy disks. For those of you who don't know what a floppy disk is, it was
but they're the 1.4. At least they're not the 7-inch flop.
It was
actually, I don't even know.
It was
1.4K.
It was basically
Yeah,
the way that we stored data in the beginning.
In the beginning.
In the beginning.
That
Well, no, it
save
was
button?
right after the tape drive. You ever have the cassette? Like you would literally load your program onto a cassette.
But most people got the Apple computer
right, but
that had the floppy
that's
drive.
Well, first you had
What's
the
before
cards.
that? The card, yes, with the
Then
punches.
you had the tape. Then you had the cassettes. I'm just getting up to like the mid 1970s now, and then the floppy disks were a revelation. These were these thin, flexible disks
they
that
were very
held a lot of
transportable.
information. They were very fast.
They were faster, yeah.
For the Zoomers, you know that button when you save something?
It
on
looks
a
like
document?
a floppy disk.
That's a floppy disk.
I mean, when I that's funny, Ian. Then
we got the small cassette disks, which were a lot more compact. They were hard shelled, not floppy, and they were even better. And then, from there, then we went in a lot of different directions, but leading to the USB drives and
jazz drives. Do you guys remember jazz drives?
DVDs, then
I
followed
still have some of those.
CDs, then
DVDs,
jazz drives
then
are so
Blu-ray
annoying.
for storage.
Here's some fun. If you
Zip drives.
Zip drives, yeah.
Those are floppy disks right there.
Yeah, this one actually, my studio, our old
that's a big one.
computer. Yeah, our old computer ran off of this, the 7-inch floppy. Now it runs off of this, but it's still from the 80s. The board.
So we're going back, guys.
We're going back.
60-year-old technology that broke down at Newark Airport yesterday, and they lost communication with all of the air traffic in their what do you call it?
Terminal?
No.
Their airspace.
Oh,
their airspace, right?
Yeah.
So there's a certain amount of airspace that each airport has, and there's lots of factors that determine, I guess, the size of it and everything. But basically, they need to see all incoming and outgoing traffic, even planes that aren't going to land at their airport. They need to be aware of all that if they need it. And they lost communication. I don't think they said how long they lost it for, but this could have easily crashed dozens of airplanes. Easily. And as far as
they're understaffed now because of the gutting
of course,
the FAA.
Yeah, so we're understaffed. There's probably not money ready, willing, and able. And you can't fix this tomorrow. This is not a problem that can be, they were saying we're going to update everything in 2030. That was the pre-existing plan. And even if you made this a top priority, meaning unlimited budget, unlimited resources, just make it happen. You can't make this thing happen and go away right away. If you're flying, and I'm flying too, I know a lot of people are coming in from out of the country that are flying to come to Notacon. I'm going taking my family to Disney World afterwards, so I got to fly. Disney. You're coming into New York City airspace. You need that airport to be functioning. You need that air traffic control to know what the hell you're doing. Yeah. So this affects millions of people.
And apparently the people that were the air traffic controllers, like some of them not walked off. They characterized it walked off, but they left because there's a contingency apparently the union fought for is that if they're stressed out, they can leave. But, because it was pretty stressful, high stakes issue, I think they thought, oh, God, there's going to be so many plane crashes because of this.
Yeah. So bottom line is, it's one of those things like, politicians going back many years are responsible for this.
True.
So the current.
It is amazing how many legacy systems are still in place. Because institutions basically, first of all, it'd be very expensive, but they're also like, this works.
It works. It does work.
And we don't want to F with it because it's critical infrastructure.
Yeah, you build a new one alongside it,
yeah.
And then you retire the old one. And this would have been perfect thing for Elon Musk to actually do. Hey, right. I will get my software engineers and use
exactly
to go in and find these inefficiencies in super old hardware and software. I mean,
instead of just running amok with a chainsaw.
That's
unbelievable.
He's a dingus. He doesn't know. All right, let's get the hell away from this horrible shit. Let's get back to some positive.
Let's talk about these rockets.
Well, I was gonna bring up all these videos that people have been sending us. There's some RFK videos.
We have like 5 minutes here, tops, guys, just so you know, because Ian and I have a ton of work to do.
Deepfakes just got harder to detect now with heartbeat. I mean, there's that
course.
kind of shit. It's like here it is. Boom, boom, boom. Flip that around. Where a person's face or body has been digitally altered to mimic someone or getting disturbingly good. I guess they're passing the uncanny valley at a unfortunate rate, which is becoming faster and faster.
Just a matter of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're rapidly getting to the point where it's just digital, whatever you say, any picture, any video, any audio, whatever, you don't know if it's real or not.
Yeah, I saw one where he had MS-13 on his forehead. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's real.
What's funny is, despite how good we're getting, that Trump was flogging an obviously fake, clumsy, childish.
Well, it's not even fake. It was like
that tattoo with the MS-13 on
right, but that was just to label the fact that that's what it was indicative of.
But
quote
he
unquote.
said it. But he said those are actual tattoos.
Right. The dude got Arial font tattooed on his thumb.
Whatever. It was ridiculous.
It was like so dumb. I mean, if anybody hasn't seen that, let me do the MS.
What a dumb jackass we got there.
Yeah.
And look, the more time that goes by, the more I realize that this is literally like he is the front man. He's got a massive amount of people behind him. Project 2025, I have nothing to do with it. Don't know anything about it. And I remember talking to people online, and everyone was denying that's happening. Everything he's doing is Project 2025. It's right out of the goddamn thing that we all said was going to happen. But it's just like a Illuminati setup we got here.
Here's basically what he was saying. It's
that's it.
He was arguing that this was real. The MS-13.
That those actual.
That those were the actual tattoos and not something somebody put over top to indicate that they thought these.
You can tell just by looking at the M. You can tell it was Photoshopped.
Yeah.
That's all you got to do.
Excuse me. He had an MS-13 on it.
But in his interview, I mean, you have to watch the full interview.
Yeah, it's like 90 seconds of him.
He makes it clear he thought that the MS-13 were real, not just an annotation. But of course, they're not. The tattoos on the fingers have anything to do with MS-13.
Right. Famously, MS-13 is very explicit when they write MS-13. They write MS-13.
And they don't have gang tattoos. It's just not something that they do.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like
he go back to that picture. I mean, he's got a ton of makeup on.
Oh, of course.
And he's very propped up here. I mean, he doesn't look good even through all of the.
He's really starting to show his age.
Yeah, he looks very.
I noticed
very
that too
older.
when he was in that interview, very recently. It's like, he's really starting to look like an 80-year-old guy now.
Yeah, I mean, he might be on the Biden train in terms of mental.
Hey Ben, I'm way past being nice. I mean, we're full in. I'm in survival mode over here. I mean, I have never in my life had to deal with so much stress at the same time than what's going on right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got 2 young kids. I'm super worried about the welfare of everyone that I love, and everybody that's in my life. I'm worried for all of us. The tariff crazy is about to happen. We're gonna, nobody knows exactly how it's going to manifest, but it's certainly happening. We're watching the dismantling of the country that I live in and a country that I had loved and respected for a long time. I know you were trying to be funny, and the bottom line is though, like, yeah, we're distraught, guys. We're freaking out over what's going on here. And as a skeptic,
if you're not paying attention.
As a freaking skeptic, skepticism has been a fantastic, life-altering thing for me to have going through my mind throughout the last, 30 years of my life. But my God, being a skeptic right now in the United States, it's like one face punch after another after another. I mean, they don't let up. I mean, I don't know.
That's the plan.
Yep.
That's deliberate. That's not a side effect.
They want to exhaust you of your desire to protest. All right. What else do we got? Let's see what some other people sent in some links. Thank you so much, of course, for sending. Chicken hatches peacock egg and raises enormous child. This is an Animal Kingdom interspecies adoptions.
Mm-hmm.
You guys probably have seen that before.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see if I can unmute this. I don't know why it's muted.
Where did I hear about that recently? Where they just put they put a peacock egg into a chicken because I guess for some reason and just raised it as a child. Yeah,
maybe they're bringing back the dodo. Maybe that's
chicken named Susan has become mother to a peacock,
that's
and
awesome.
She doesn't seem to mind that she's raising the most enormous child she's ever seen. Susan's human lives on a property with free-range peacocks, and she found a lone peacock egg one day after the mother had already left with her other babies. So she slipped it under Susan the hen, who accepted her new role without question. When little Pee-wee the peahen hatched a few days later, Susan didn't even seem to notice that her new baby looked a little different. She immediately got to work teaching Pee-wee how to forage, protecting her from other birds, and completely ignoring the fact that her chick was rapidly becoming a giant.
Mama.
Now 6 months old, Pee-wee is bigger than every bird in the coop. But she still follows Susan everywhere, sleeps next to her at night, and even still tries to tuck under her tiny wing for comfort. Susan struts around proud.
But I'm pretty sure the males are like pretty aggressive from what I've heard. Like territorial, maybe?
Something bad could happen there. All right, we got to go, guys, because I got a lot of work to do, and I have the show tonight.
We do, yeah. We have to set up. There's some more stuff. Jay's like keeps pressing buttons, trying to break stuff.
Well, I wanted to see what happens when the score goes up to 1,000.
Yeah, what happens? Actually, I don't know if it fits. Still.
No, not lots. When you go to, if it's all zeros, it doesn't fit. See?
It's close.
Nobody.
We're not going to go up to 1,000.
We'll
play the game for 8 hours straight.
So here is what's going to happen, guys. We're probably going to do a live stream on this Friday, day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're going to have some guests. It's going to be cool.
I don't know about
next week. We're not doing anything.
Okay.
Because we just can't.
No.
We just can't. We got way too much to do.
Stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be like the day before we leave. There's no way
it's not happening.
Yeah.
So we will be back probably the following Wednesday, and then maybe because we leave the day after that.
We leave Thursday.
That we might not even do it that one. So we might be out for 3 weeks.
Yeah, as our kind of our spring break.
Yeah, we're all taking a much needed vacation. So we're going to Disney World.
Disney.
And there's so much to say.
I'll strap a GoPro on Jay's head.
The last time I went to Disney, and I'm sure you were with me. Yeah, well, you were. I have pictures.
Yeah.
Last time we went, you don't pre-plan anything.
No.
You buy a ticket to go to the park. You walk into the park. You just wait on the lines.
Walk around.
None of the lines were bad. You walk around. You can get seated at restaurants. You can just sit down at the German restaurant in Epcot. No problem. Whatever. Right? No problem. Now you have to tattoo instructions on your forearms.
Yeah.
So you don't forget what you got to do just to go from one ride to the freaking next. You got to constantly be on your phone. You have to be on your phone so much when you're at that park that they literally have like battery chargers so you could recharge your phone.
Oh yeah.
Like you got to be totally freaking prepared. And it's like I'm not saying any of this in front of my kids. I don't want them to realize that they're going to have a blast, and to them, it's just going to be like, come on, let's go do this, But to the adults, it's been like we've been planning and talking and strategizing and looking at the apps and figuring out the order of it. Oh my God!
Johnny says, why didn't you pre-record some live shows? We'll get right on that. Well, actually, there will be some YouTube videos because I'm going to try to get all the ones that I have in the can, so to speak, scheduled for the weeks that we're away, and then also the TikToks. So look out for that. And emails coming out.
Even going to a place like Disney where it's supposed to be just fun, it's now burdened with all of this stress. It's like, what the
Jay, you're the parent. That's how it works.
I know, but it didn't always. It wasn't always.
It
like
wasn't
this.
like this when I was.
What happened
12.
to my childhood?
Yeah. You reclaiming your childhood.
I guess things will get restful for me when I have
Reclaiming my
Alzheimer's
time.
and I forget about everything.
It was
Old time.
it's one of those slippery slope things. It was a once you create something like a lightning lane, right?
Oh,
where
yeah.
you can get on a shorter lane to get into a ride. That was the beginning.
Yeah.
And
the
then
end.
it just progressed from there, because then it's then you're basically in a competition with everyone else at the park to get on the shorter lines. So they kept once everyone does lightning lanes, then it's
no longer a lightning lane.
no longer a lightning lane. So they had to come up with the super lightning lane, and then the thing they had to come up with ways.
But when you say they had to, this is all to make money.
Whatever. This is
It's
what
all
happened.
about money making.
And then we get to where we are now, this end stage where you have to have this master plan in order to navigate your way through the park and have things registered days in advance or months in whatever, and get your
The park population is too high. That's basically it. Like they're
that's part of
greedily
the problem.
doing it because they don't care. What do they care about people milling about and all that crap? They
So
just
they
want to
need-
sell as many tickets as
They
they
need
can.
to open a Disney New England,
Disney-
or
yeah, Disney Connecticut.
Midwest, or Connecticut, somewhere else.
I don't know. It's so commercial. Whatever. All right,
of
guys,
course.
we got to go.
Yeah.
I am so psyched that I'm going to see a lot of you in 1 week and 1 day.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much, guys. We have lots of fun things your way coming at Notacon.
Right. Still tickets available. Last
Yes.
minute.
Join
you
us.
get 'em.
Definitely.
Tell
NotaconCon.com.
NotaconCon.com.
That's right.
Ian, bastard.
And you could purchase your very own SGU rocket.
That's right.
True. That's probably. I mean, I don't know if we're bringing them to Kansas.
They will only be available at live events.
No, we'll bring them to. I'll bring some to Kansas.
All right, we'll bring some to Kansas.
I might even email people and just have them pre-order it, just so
That's
I know
a good
how
point.
many to bring.
Yeah, we can't bring a ton of big things when
Yeah.
we're flying. We're driving to Notacon, so we could
So it's
bring
much easier.
much more swag and stuff that we don't normally bring, like mugs and things.
Guys, we are so excited about this conference. It's really
It's
like
going to be a ton of fun.
because we have been working on the content for the conference for a very long time. So like seeing everything get finalized and be iterated and changed, like we're literally just in our final meeting that we had last night, we made one last change, one last upgrade to one of the bits that we're doing. Yeah, so super psyched. I promise you're going to have a great time. We have a lot of cool surprises. We'll see you in a week.
All right.
Goodbye. So long. Bye,
everyone.
everybody.
So long.
Be
Bye,
safe.
Bye. We're
Bye.
playing
Goodbye.
music.